All right, and we're live. This is Tim Huggins. This is Politely Atheist, and we'll start from chair and move all the way over. Give out your information, and I'll include it in the description. Go ahead.
Yep. Well, my YouTube channel is Chairview. If you search for Chairview, you'll find me. I'm the same on Twitter, and there you go. I started making videos again after taking a 3-day break. So,
thank you. We'll go to Egglord.
Yeah, how is your did you ever get the your chair fixed? The problem with your chair fixed? Okay.
It's all good.
All right.
And shilling for me, I am Egglord the Nosferatu. You can find me on Twitter searching for, well, I'll drop it in the description. The handle in the description. And you can find my live stream. Oh, fucking hell.
Already.
Are you kidding me?
Somebody had to drop the dime. It wasn't me, thank goodness.
Oh, I was hoping someone.
We're gonna keep it real loose.
Okay, you know in Demolition Man, every time he swore, it would be like, that will cost you 20 credits.
It's like a tip jar.
Yep.
But you can find me at Egglord the Nosferatu on YouTube. There I do the Demented Degenerate stream, which is where I interview NSFW artists. As of yet, we only have one episode, so
You can also find him on Cursing Like a Saint.
He's also typically on our discussions and always puts us in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm usually here. Is where I am. You can also probably find me in Hagbard's SciTube.
Or in the sewers underneath.
Underneath Chatelet.
Exactly.
All right, we'll go to Red Robot.
Greetings, YouTube! I am the shiny red robot, the host with the almost of the regular B-list Sunday Fun Day stream. Come see us each Sunday.
Nice.
If only your voice was a little bit deeper, you would totally nail monster truck announcements.
We'll sing Sunday. How's that?
All right.
Nah, it needs to be a little deeper.
We'll go to James.
Who?
I only know Samaj.
Yes, let's avoid the doxing. Thank you very much. I am Samaj. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Don't type in the letters SEMAJZ on any social media, YouTube sites, and whatnot. Don't worry about it. Don't even try it. Don't even look it up. But since you're already there, you might as well hit the like and subscribe button.
And I think that's Tiki. I think next we have Tiki Bomber.
Okay. So I am Tiki Bomber. I do YouTube. I'm on Twitter mainly, shit posting with Egglord and everybody else. I do art as well. So if you are looking for something to get done, you can always just message me up on Twitter or on Skype, which is also Tiki Bomber.
And Politipod.
Thank you.
I am the Politipod. I do a regular weekly YouTube podcast called The Politipod every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right.
I do that. Sometimes I make videos, and possibly tomorrow might be having Sargon of Akkad come on and talk about the whole PewDiePie situation.
Yeah, that's notable. We gotta post that out big time because mass subs.
Yeah,
from that.
all the YouTube bucks.
Let's make sure we have Sargon's confirmation first, though.
Yeah. So that's why I said I think and I hope. Maybe not. Carl's a busy man.
Well, I pray that I will.
He is a busy man.
Yeah, he's too busy doxing people and whatnot. But come on. I'm just joking.
Let's not be controversial here.
You're gonna get me.
Yeah, I don't want to get him
from his follows.
I'm the nice guy. All right, so basically we'll start it, and you know, to be honest with you, it says Norse paganism. But to be honest, if you look at most of the Germanic groups, they seem to follow mostly the same main gods. Odin, Thor, Loki, obviously in their respective languages. But it seems like the myths. Yes, and it seems like the well, I shouldn't even say myths. What they believe and what neo-pagans do believe. It seems to be almost universally told, with maybe a few differences. What did you guys think about that?
I wouldn't call it universal. I mean, it literally is the Germanic peoples.
Yeah.
It's very much tied to the linguistic grouping there.
Yeah.
And for everybody who doesn't know, when I refer to Germanic peoples, I'm referring to the people who speak the Germanic languages.
Which includes English.
So I mean,
by
that's
the way.
the language we're speaking.
Yeah.
So basically, it was the main religion of the Germanic tribes and the Norse. But the Norse didn't really convert to Christianity. I believe most of them converted around the 13th and 14th century, or maybe a little later.
I believe the first.
Are you air quoting the conversion, or are you actually
I
being
believe-
sympathetic about the conversion? Because you got to remember, in the 13 and 14, you had the Christian Crusaders who would actually go out and slaughter these Germanic tribes because they refused to worship one god.
Well,
Wait,
that wasn't just the Baltic Crusades. That was also Charlemagne's big thing against
you
the
guys
Saxons.
are getting history confused. Charlemagne was during the 700s and 800s.
Yeah, no, I was saying it was earlier.
Oh yeah.
It was much earlier. It was
That's
Charlemagne.
100% true. Yes.
Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the first king that converted to Christianity, if we're talking about Scandinavia, I believe it was King Magnus from Sweden. He was converted to Catholicism, and I think it was in the 1100s. I think it was 1138, if I'm not mistaken, or not 1100s, 1038 AD.
And I think in Denmark, the first Christian was Harold Bluetooth.
Yeah, I believe so.
But I mean, we could trace it. We could trace it back to, I believe, the Franks, who have roots to the Vikings.
Bye, Red.
But
See you, Red. We lost him.
Well,
Yeah.
he had to go, I think.
So it gets a little tricky because it seemed like there were Germanic peoples who did convert to Christianity, but
mostly they seem to have been the southern Germanics, like the Lombards, the Franks, the Ostrogoths, and the Visigoths, actually.
The Visigoths.
So my question is, it seemed like the Germanic peoples had more or less a universal religion, somewhat. What do you think they saw?
Which kind of is a contrast with the Celtic religion that had literally thousands of gods. They were almost as bad as the Hindus.
Well, I mean, the question I want to ask is, maybe there really isn't an answer, but was there something that the pagans or the ex-pagans saw in Christianity with the Roman Empire and, on the Eastern Roman Empire, I should say, and with, the new Christian European states that they saw as appealing?
With the Germanics, it tends to have been that they had to be converted by force.
We're talking about conversion into Catholicism?
Conversion to Christianity from paganism.
Specifically Catholicism, because the Eastern Orthodox Church was not as nearly as aggressive as the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh no, by far the Eastern Orthodox Church was a pushover compared to the Roman Catholics. I think a lot of the Germanic tribes, like
Yeah.
Eglor was saying, were converted by force.
Yeah.
However, I do believe a lot of the Scandinavians voluntarily chose it because from the time that the Vikings started pushing and raiding up north in England, they started going into the monasteries, and I think a lot of the teachings and texts and stuff like that kind of started getting pushed into their stuff. And then a lot of the kings found out about it,
Well,
and then they started
and that's a
converting,
good-
and they forced
that's a
everyone
good-
to convert.
That's a good point, Political Pod, because the monasteries at the time were the best places of learning in Europe, and they're probably, they probably started getting into, philosophy and other things, and but my question is, do you feel like
the first things they were doing was stealing? Okay, they were the reason that the Christian monks really that the Vikings stuck out to the Christian monks at all in recording was that they didn't respect the church.
Yeah, they would raid churches, steal relics that the people of England or Scotland or whatever you want to say.
That other raider cultures didn't would respect.
Yes.
Well, rape, pillage, and murder.
Not pretty much. That was their thing.
And the other topic I want to get into, I don't know if it really has an answer, but I kind of feel like maybe there's some pagans who wanted to leave just because of the sheer violence, the human sacrifice, the animal sacrifice. I mean, there was a lot of emphasis on war and fighting, and
that may have been more the case with the Celts, I think, because we're relatively the conversion of Ireland was and most of Britain was relatively peaceful. Not to say that was a peaceful time, mind you, because it was not. But the conversion, the effort itself, was largely missionary work. It was not done through force. Whereas with the Germanics, particularly like starting with Charlemagne's war with the Saxons, he basically would roll in with his army, forcibly baptize the local Saxon populations, leave, and then expect them to be Christians, and they would immediately go back to being heathens and start raiding Christian townships in retaliation. And they did
that wasn't always the case. I mean, some of them would be enthralled with the looks of Catholicism and Christianity and would actually full on convert themselves.
Yeah, it did happen.
I don't know if you guys have seen the show, but the show Vikings, History Channel, it really touches on this a lot. Because if you, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but there's a guy, the main guy in the show is called Ragnar Lothbrok, and
he was a semi-real historical mythic person.
Yeah, he's based off of who was it?
Ragnar Harry Bridges.
Yes, he's Harry Bridges.
He's
basically in like the first few episodes, they start raiding these monasteries, and what they do is they capture this monk who can help them translate stuff. His name's Asphalon. Yeah, Athelstan, that's what I meant. Asphalon. That's the horse from Gandalf's horse Legolas's horse in Lord of the Rings. But basically, that he takes this guy named Athelstan and he helps him, learn the text of Christianity. He's going through it, and he starts to try and help this guy convert to Christianity. But on his way to helping the guy convert, there's a guy named Floki who kills the Christian so that he can keep the old ways intact. But it does touch a lot on some of the historical context, and I think History Channel does a really good job about that in their shows. They touch on the historical context of things like that, because stuff like that was happening. You had pressures from they would capture monks or people, and then they would read the text to them, and then they would like what they were saying in the text of the Bible. And they would start saying, well, maybe we should convert to this. This is a lot more peaceful. There's no human sacrifices and stuff like this. And then you had people.
most raiders like that were probably converted purely through their thralls.
Yeah, and then you had people like his brother in the show who was married to, I think, the Princess of France or Queen of France or something like that.
Paris, King Rolf the Walker, I think. And
he had to convert to marry this woman. So
he was the first Norman king.
Yeah, so he had to convert, and then from him you could see people like who is it? William the Conqueror. That's the one from Normandy, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Normandy kind of seems to like have this tradition of older Viking styles of fighting. Like they would go and they would raid England before, and then they go and conquer it. But it's been throughout Norman history that they would they have some ties to like Scandinavia and Scotland. Yes, I actually have Norman Irish blood. Same here.
And the thing about the Normans is they actually were Christian. Throughout the entirety of the history of Normandy, they've never been heathens. Well, their ancestors were.
Heathen pagans.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the question I'm making, and I'm assuming that everybody has a basic understanding of.
You're asking about the human sacrifice. The thing is about whether it was because of the violence of daily life, and the fact is, these are kind of a people who enjoyed raiding other people. These were pirates. These were roving barbarians. Essentially, these were people who lived that way. They didn't see anything wrong with the violence in itself. If they had a problem with human sacrifice, it was probably because they'd seen too many of their relatives sacrificed.
Yeah.
No, I agree. The Viking people, especially, we're not talking about the lower Germanic tribes. We're talking about the Scandinavians. The Vikings were a very, very warrior-centric race. Very key on raiding and pillaging and fighting each other a lot. So they had known fighting throughout their entire existence. If you're looking from the very inception of Vikings, from lower, not Saxony, from what we now know as Germany today, areas like that, when they started migrating up north to Scandinavia, they had been fighting the Romans before, and then whenever they got up to Scandinavia, they fought with themselves. Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Iceland, and then from there they start to fight England and France and all these other different enemies. So I think I
was talking to Egglord before, and I think we agreed that their view of morality was definitely relative.
They had a distinctly they distinctly didn't necessarily. There wasn't a universal morality like there is with Christianity or Islam or Judaism.
Yeah.
Well, even Judaism doesn't really have that universal morality either, because they seem to judge the figures in their book more on the merits of what they did as heroes rather than a lot of their drawbacks as characters.
Sure. Well, I kind of felt like Judaism started to evolve the more time it was around, and it got more and more acceptance. Then, Jehovah and became more of a universal God rather than a God of just the Jews. But going back to the pagans. It doesn't really seem like they viewed their gods as like the universal god, and even their view of Earth, as Midgard. It seems almost specific to where they're living. Exactly. It doesn't really seem like they're that concerned about other places around the world.
No.
In that time period, you got to think about how to help your tribe survive first before helping out other tribes. And so having your tribe in the center of Midgard, as an example, it's a good basis to hold on to, because you want to ensure your own survival before you ensure the survival of others around you.
Right.
No, definitely.
Exactly.
I agree wholly because if you look at today, like we've got people who are like still haven't contacted the outside world before, just like little tiny islands here and there. But back then, like the world was the world's much smaller. What I'm getting at is the world's much smaller today than it was 1,000 years ago. Because 1,000 years ago, you wouldn't have been able to talk to your neighbor really quickly. You would have had to, ride a horse over there, and that would have taken like 3 days.
Weeks.
Yeah, days, weeks, months, depending on where you were going. But definitely, I do think that whenever, like getting back to what you were asking earlier about, does the human sacrifice play a part to that? And I think it's a yes and a no. I think that they were so used to it that it didn't affect some of their members, but I think a lot of their members started becoming more open to Christianity because of some of the more barbaric things inside of their own religion.
A certain somebody we know argues all the time that we should go back to that. that
Who's
human
that?
sacrifice, the human sacrifice was the solution to everything back in the day.
It's human sacrifice.
Crying.
We're trying to bring it back. I mean, we're
It's the new hotness, not the old busted.
I'm telling you, the world
The sharp
clearly
pointy rocks.
the world has clearly destabilized since the fall of the Aztec Empire, and it's because they were picking up the slack for the rest of the world. All right,
I definitely I don't think it is.
Hashtag bring back beheadings.
Well,
hashtag bring it back.
To kind of change the subject.
Yeah.
So my question is, it's almost as, I don't think a question, more a statement. It's almost like the Vikings consider themselves like real, authentic human beings, and everybody else was just, grounds to conquer or pillage or whatever and bring back to home.
Yes, that is kind of how tribal peoples tended to look at the world. You even see this in the conceit of Native American Indians. The Cheyenne Indians called themselves human beings, and everybody else was the Comanche or the Snake people. The other tribes called them the Striped Arrow people. It was a conceit on their part that they were more real people than their tribal neighbors.
I think you see this throughout world history, though. Like you can go back to the very beginnings. You can see people like this in Germanic tribes. You can see in the steppe tribe. A really good place where you can see it, though, is if you look at the Mongolian people. Did Tim just leave?
Uh-oh.
He
That's
does
still
that
alive?
a lot.
I hope we're still alive.
It's still live.
It's still alive.
Okay.
He just needs to take it a few minutes. Okay.
Well,
there we
if
go.
you look at the welcome back.
Sorry about
if you look,
that.
If you look at people,
Yeah,
Like
if you
the
look at the
Mongols?
Mongols, the Mongols are a good
I got
example.
kicked out of my own thing.
They had their own separate tribes, but whenever they joined together, they were the Mongols. Everyone else was just something for them to gain more land and more people to fight. And you can see this because they would start a hordes of millions of people. They conquered anywhere from China, Russia, Korea. Didn't ever get to Japan because of 2 typhoons. India.
They tried.
They conquered. They conquered Persia. They would have pushed through all of Europe if it had not been for somebody. I think it was Ogadai or maybe Genghis who died whenever they reached Hungary. But they were extremely close to conquering all of Europe. If somebody hadn't died, and their leadership would have been a little bit better after he had died, if he even
They
had,
would have conquered.
they would have conquered all of Europe. Then they would have conquered the rest of Russia, and then they would have focused on Japan. They didn't care. And I think the best part about the Mongols is that you see this with a lot of the... God, you left again. You see this with a lot...
I think you're boring him.
Probably. You see this with a lot of the tribes. Whenever they conquer a people, they don't...
Man, I am dying.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry for boring you to death.
No.
They don't subjugate the people. They actually help them spread a little bit.
Yeah. And that's
the point
if
I
they
kind of want
they
to
don't
get
set
back
them.
specifically into the religion itself. And
Oh yeah,
how the
this is
people
something-
view things. The one thing.
This is something that kind of brings into a more controversial point. A lot of people who identify as Asatru, as practicing Asatru or Norse neo-paganism, are usually, a lot of these people are white supremacists. I'm not going to say like there's a usual amount of this or anything, but
Yeah.
There's
But-
normally
but it's very
pagans and skinheads.
it's very big with the Aryan Brotherhood in particular. Prison gangs tend to convert to Odin worship, and it's
What's not to worship about a god with muscles so,
Well,
so big that they call upon lightning themselves?
Odin.
He's a Rosetta. Wow, he's a Rosetta painting come to life.
Exactly.
you guys. Well,
Mhm.
Go on.
Yeah, continue.
Well, it sense to me why white supremacists get on with paganism. I mean, because it's clearly, obviously, it's dramatic, and it's you know one of
there is a tendency
you know,
towards
well,
ethnocentrism.
I mean,
Yeah.
the other thing about it is, you know, from what I've read about Hitler, anyways, is he hated Christianity. He did not like it. He thought it made people really passive.
Yes, 100%. That is
Well,
correct. Yes.
organized Christianity, sure, yeah, but he did like still believe in God.
No, he was a pagan.
Well, I mean,
He was a Catholic.
he was a Norse paganist.
everybody
He
to
was
convert
not-
to
He
Islam.
was Catholic,
pagan.
not pagan.
He was a Catholic.
he was an
But he-
His
occultist.
mother
No,
was a
Absolutely
Jew.
No,
despised it.
you
He
guys
absolutely despised the Catholic Church.
from the court, guys.
Yeah, yes, as
he
an
didn't-
organization.
No. Let me yes. Let me
Read my
rephrase
consult.
what I said. Catholic, but he did not. In anyways, and this could be taken out of context, but he personally admired Islam and Islam, just because there's some aspects of Christianity he didn't like. It was how it made people really meek. He did not like the meekness side, and if it was up to him, he would reform, because he was a member of the Catholic Church. I'm not trying to secret
to
words.
put it in terms an occultist would speak in. He focused will is a very big thing for Nazis, for
Yes.
Germanic philosophers, for Scandinavian pagans. You focus on the right to will, on your ability to do things for yourself. That's why he hated the meekness aspect. You want, if you believe in the power of will, you want to be strong. You don't want to be this weak person who relies on the generosity of others to survive.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if anyone watches this guy, but there's a guy called Alternate History Hub, and he did a series about what if Germany had won World War II, at least the European campaign. So basically, what he says in this is, I learned quite a little bit about World War II. Some of the things I did not know. Being that I used to be a history major, there was a few things I didn't know. First off, Hitler absolutely despised Benito Mussolini and the Catholic Church for two reasons. Benito Mussolini was weak, and also because he did not like Southern Europeans. He did not like Spanish. He did not like the Greeks. He did not like the Italians. He did not like the Turks, the Turks and all the basically Eastern Europe and Southern Europe.
All the
You know,
Mediterraneans, he despised
exactly.
all Mediterraneans.
Precisely. And then for the Catholic
But
Church,
let's stay on topic. I mean, everything always. If we could talk about Hitler all day, you know.
That kind of was a
Samage's
controversial-
delight, but we need to.
Samage's
let's
That was a controversial.
Yeah, let's. I
should too.
shouldn't even brought it up. But let's specifically go back. I don't want to delve into that.
Yes.
Hitler did
Hello?
nothing wrong.
Hitler did
I'm
do that.
gonna change the subject a little
paganism.
bit.
That
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to change the subject a little bit back into the paganism, more of the pagan and Christian and pagan and Catholic side of things. Because if you actually look at the Bible for today, when they refer to the heathens, they are taken in reference of people who were not following their beliefs and mainly focused on the people like the pagans, specifically the raiders themselves because of their barbaric methods. And the term heathen was used to be a derogatory term. It later evolved to pagans being classified as witches instead because of witch was supposed to be more derogatory than heathen, but both are still in the Bible today.
Yeah.
Well, which has kind of been reclaimed by neo-pagans because it literally meant wise folk. Witchcraft is wisecraft.
Yeah, but it holds derogatory terms as well in history, mainly in the Christian side, because to be a witch is a sin.
Yeah. Which, from what I've read, is actually a mistranslation of the original Hebrew passage. The "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
Right.
But that's more of a semantics discussion.
What does it actually say?
Something about someone who uses magic or such as a way of harming the tribe, or probably someone who is not the prophet. Because let's face it, Moses was
warlock.
a goddamn witch. Moses,
Warlocks.
yeah,
he was.
Oath breaker.
If somebody was to break the oath, as you just called them, oath breaker, they were considered a warlock and casted out from the coven itself. Usually those kinds of individuals would die due to the fact that they do not have the protection, they do not have people in numbers, and they don't have the necessary resources to survive.
Yeah.
Very few would survive and go
generally,
join other tribes.
Generally, a lot of pagan cultures, they didn't necessarily have death penalties. They had duels. They had single combat, which was a way of settling disputes, and they had outlawry. Outlawry was essentially if you say you killed a family member, which was a big no-no in Celtic society, big taboo. You were tried. And if you were to be given outlawry as a sentence, and outlawry was the stripping of your tribal citizenship, which means you lost all rights, protections, nobody could help you, and essentially it left you to starve in the wilderness, and it also removed any punishment for acting against you. Basically, anybody could take you as a slave and keep you perpetually in that stasis. Actual citizens of the tribal confederacies generally had more rights as slaves than what a captured thrall would have, or one of these outlaws,
Right.
because they could actually buy their way out of servitude.
Yep.
There's a lot of upward mobility in the ancient world, surprisingly. Sorry, did I dominate the discussion?
I just kind of want to. We have about 20 minutes. No. Everything was very good. I kind of wanted to touch on how the pagans viewed the ending of the worlds, right?
Yeah.
In terms of Ragnarok and everything happening, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. But it seemed like what's that?
That was actually pretty good pronunciation.
I would have rolled the R's, but I know I would have butchered it. But
no, you don't want to roll the R's. You do not want to roll the R's.
They don't roll the R's.
No, you don't. You do not roll the R's in Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it just seems like this is it's almost like how some hardcore Christians look at the second coming, except way the hell more badass. And it's almost as if the most amazing thing to me is it's almost like they don't even care if they die. You know, like it's not like they don't really have a clear view of an afterlife. It's like you either go to Valhalla or I forget the other
Folkheim.
Wolfgangner, yeah.
Folkheim.
Which is just chosen at random, but basically right when you go there, you start preparing for the final battle.
You talk about Sovngarde?
Well, it kind of, in a strange way, it almost seems like a religion geared towards soldiers, so towards people who had war traumas. You know, people who were stuck in that mindset and couldn't get out in the civilian life.
Yeah.
So in a way, their ideal paradise after death was not like an eternal peace or bliss, but rather an eternity
final battle,
an eternity of preparing for a final battle. Yeah, exactly. It's post-traumatic stress disorder or survivor's guilt personified in a religious form.
Well, you got to keep in mind, too, like I said before, they want to make sure that they survive. And what better way to make sure of that survival than to promise in your afterlife, when you do die and you sacrifice your life, that afterlife would be better for you because you died as a warrior versus dying as a coward, which is where you would go if you chose to flee the battlefield.
Yeah, it was a way of discouraging suicide, I suppose, yeah. Although in a way, a lot of Vikings probably ended up trying to suicide by battle.
Well, you know what? If you're going to go down, you might as well go down in a glorious battle.
And doesn't that already count as suicide? Like, if you're trying to do suicide by cop, isn't it still suicide? Didn't you just, like, disobey the entire principle of not killing yourself?
In a way, it just looks to me, it's very interesting that the only way that you could really go to hell was to be a really shitty soldier.
Yeah, being a really shitty soldier, or a liar, or a suicide.
There was too much going on for suicide to really happen. So when it does happen, it was very rare at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not just the men who would fight either. You had women and you would have children prepared to fight as well.
Shield maidens are cool as hell.
Mm-hmm. Shield maidens.
They will take your ass down.
That's also, I'm sure, a little bit disconcerting to the communities that the Viking raiding were vicious. And first of all, that the women were fighting, and second, that they were vicious and they were killing people, and it was. I'm sure it was a little.
Oh, can you imagine? Can you imagine a monk who's like, there's no women allowed in the monastery. The monastery is getting raided, and then just a woman comes up and just lops his head off, and his friend's like, "What just happened?"
Well, think about it this way: the first time you've seen a woman in maybe 10, 20 years after converting and being a monk, is someone who is wielding a sword and screaming in a language you don't understand.
Ready to bite off whatever sticks their way.
They'd be like, it's a good thing I dodged those things called women. It means I've lived long enough to know what I missed.
You'll be that monk, Egglord.
You know what's really interesting? We're talking about the raiding. So it's like the Norse took a lot of stuff from the English. They took money, they took lives, they took livestock, they took
virginities,
they took their religion, and they also took their language, because like their version of language today, like this version of Scandinavian, like Swedish Finnish, and Norse. All of it is it's basically old version
Well,
of
not
English.
not
the
Finnish.
Old English.
No,
Finnish
English
is
is
not
actually-
Scandinavian.
Oh no, Finnish.
Yeah.
Finnish is a weird language.
No. But hold on. English.
Danish. You're thinking Danish.
That's Uralic.
What?
English is Germanic. English is not like all those languages.
I know
like,
it's
Dan-
Anglo-Saxon.
let's just clarify. It's
Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, Danish.
Yeah. the English.
yeah. So he is right. English is a Germanic language.
English
No,
actually.
yeah.
England,
Yeah.
England used to be Angleland, and like
Yeah, the Icelandic, Danish, Swedish, and
when like when you look at language though, right? Like you
Norwegian.
hear accents now, and that makes an entire like different language. There's already different words in other countries with English.
Well, yeah, and you can look at like Italians and Italian and Spanish are very similar. However,
And
there's a few syllables.
we're getting
that
off
are different.
topic. Let's change topics a
context-
little bit. We can talk about linguistics all night, but
It is all kind of on topic here.
I love this stuff.
well, to be honest with you, there probably was some intelligibility between Old English and Norse,
was.
but not very much.
There
Yeah.
was
No,
there was the Old English wasn't that different from Old Norse. They actually speak almost the same language, but
Yeah.
you still would have. It's like the difference between Irish and Gaelic and Scots Gaelic.
Well, it all comes from
Yeah.
the same place. It comes from Roman, and then it gets put into the steppe tribes, and the steppe tribes are the ones that are spreading it around.
Like I said, let's move on.
Yeah.
Is there any other topic that some of the people who haven't been talking very much, like Chair or Samaj, or
the Canadians are awfully quiet. I think it's predominantly because we're not as well versed in this as the rest
I'm
of you.
listening. I mean, I watch Vikings, but that doesn't really count as knowing much about Viking culture.
I mean, I would.
Well,
is there anything
keep in mind too that Canada was originally invaded by Vikings as well?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure archaeologists. I'm
No.
pretty sure, like a good, 20 years from now, archaeologists on the moon will find Viking bones somewhere.
Well, they
Um,
found something over
They were everywhere.
No, they're going to find them. They're also going to find them in Easter Island.
You know,
You know what? That's going to be very impressive if there were Viking bones on Easter Island, and that's why the heads are the way that they are today. Because the Vikings, can you imagine the mind blow on that one?
not just the heads, the full bodies. Those things are huge.
well, someday
Yeah, 'cause, they're buried up to their neck.
Yeah.
Like they're starting to dig down to see what's underneath them, and the heads are actually all statues, and for some reason they got buried up to their neck.
yeah. Well, also, I wouldn't be surprised if someone digs. underneath
But
it.
anyways,
Samaj.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I'm here.
Chair View, Samaj, do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions about the Norse religion or anything?
I might want to move down to the Scandinavian areas and convert, 'cause it sounds badass as fuck. Oh God, I'm sorry. I forgot what stream I'm on.
Gosh.
I'm so sorry. I forgot what stream I'm
Ruining
on.
this stream.
It's okay. I left a couple of times. It's already been ruined.
Yeah. I remember. I dropped the F-bomb. Good 5 minutes.
Gosh, I got to get that PayPal up.
You're ruining my livelihood here, man.
Yeah, just make it so that they can just donate $1 every time they swear. Right?
Oh, you
I
guys
will gladly donate to the swear jar. That's my contribution.
Yeah, everybody will just pay you $10 before the things even start.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Well, I just kind of wanted to say that looking into the beliefs, it's really interesting. You know,
It is.
how they did. For instance, one of the rituals that I really like is blot. You know, and the different ideas associated with blot, which sometimes involves human sacrifice, sometimes it involves animal sacrifice. But the sacrifice angle out of it, it actually seems like a really nice community bonding kind of situation. You know, they have a grilled meal, they pass it around, and
Is it sacrifice people?
oh yeah,
Yeah, they used to.
they and sometimes some of these and it depends on the country, but in Sweden they would have really big ones where they would be killing dozens of people at a time and hanging their dead bodies from trees upside down. But it was mostly horses.
That sounds very Predator-like.
Yeah. The more I read about that, the more I was actually disturbed, because I mean it's pretty much all my ancestors, because I'm Danish and Danish, English, and German, so it's kind of like, huh? So that's what you guys are doing.
Maybe I'm getting confused. Didn't Scandinavians used to do the red eagle? I'm not thinking of
A
something.
blood eagle. That was more of a crime. That was more of a punishment for crimes generally than a ritual, but it was.
It's still metal.
It kind of was a human sacrifice in a sense, kind of in the same way you could consider the brazen bull to be a human sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole sacrifice, and you know, it seems like with the animals, it was just they would just let out all their blood and hang them upside down on a tree. With people, sometimes in even in your own village, but it would be rare. It would be mostly prisoners of war or slaves.
Yeah, if it was from your own village, it was either a criminal or it was a volunteer.
Yeah, which I don't even understand that.
Well,
the funny thing about it is
suicide booths in Futurama. It's like one of those suicide booths. You just kind of want to die, you know?
Yeah. What a way to go! What a way to go!
Oh yeah, no, this would be really fucking hardcore method of suicide. Jesus,
yeah, gotta be.
But think about it like this: even the Aztecs viewed that as an honor. Yeah. It was an honor to be made food, to be made food for gods. Yeah.
No, cutting their hearts out.
Yeah. Burning
It was
them
a very
alive.
painful process. Don't take that the wrong way. They were terrified while it was happening because it's painful, but they absolutely did not mind that.
Well, I kind of wanted to.
Well, they minded it.
Since
I was going to say, I think they minded it.
Since we have an actual feminist in the room, what did you think about how they viewed equality?
You know what?
The Vikings in general.
The Vikings actually, they were very equal about what they had done, because both men and women were expected to fight and defend and pillage and murder people. Rape mainly was on the men's side. I don't think very many women raped, and if they did, it wasn't documented for some reason.
Yeah,
probably to keep women history pure. Both men and women were expected to do the farm work, the hunting, the both sides were expected to do everything. And when it comes to the rituals for paganism itself, both genders, and I notice genders, both male and female genders, were expected to partake in the rituals. There was no one siding over the other. They were both 100% equal.
Hashtag, there's only
and it was also how they viewed the gods too. The gods and the goddesses were almost on equal footing in a lot of ways. Freya and Odin were almost considered equals in a lot of ways. And
Freya was Odin's daughter. If you want to compare her to anybody, she'd be more comparison to Thor.
Yeah. If you want to compare Odin to somebody, it's Frigg.
Yeah.
Frigg, yeah. But
excuse me, that's
it doesn't
swearing.
really say that. Yeah. But it doesn't really say. The thing that's interesting to me is they don't really say one is, better than the other in terms of how the gods are.
Well,
maybe in battle, but that's about it.
If society was strong enough as a community and as a whole, you would actually see both men and women go off into fighting, because both men and women were expected to take up arms. And women were not deemed to be protected because they're childbearers if they were able to actually fight. The pregnant women were the only ones not allowed to fight because they're carrying the offspring and thus would need some form of protection and would be granted not to fight. But they're still expected to work.
Yeah, but think about it like a pregnant shield maiden. All you have to do is kick him in the stomach.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
God,
the pregnant women, out of that, the pregnant women were not to be fighting, but if you were not pregnant as a woman, you could fill in the slots for the soldier slots and then go charging off into a fight.
Well, to bring back the analogy earlier about the monks not seeing women and all that kind of stuff, bring it up again and say, what would they feel like if it was a pregnant woman coming up there wielding like an axe and cutting off the monks' heads?
I'm gonna take it a step further with the women charging at you, ready to behead you as a monk. You got to remember, a lot of pagans, when they go in, a lot of the Norse Vikings themselves, when they went into battle, they went almost completely nude.
Well,
No, that wasn't the Vikings. That was the Celts.
Okay.
That was
No, because several of the Vikings went in with like almost no armor whatsoever.
Well,
okay, that's what you meant.
Okay,
because the Celts were the ones that fought naked.
The Celts, they were not scared. The Celts had hallucinogen paint on their face, so that's a whole different story.
Some of the Viking tribes,
They had clothes on. They had pink.
yeah. Well, some of the Viking, I remember hearing about this. They actually had mushrooms, like the so-called magic mushrooms that the hallucinogenics.
Oh yeah,
The real mushrooms.
Flyhet Garrick, I think, is the one with the 4 white spots.
Yeah, well, they would often walk carrying mushrooms on them, and when they get into like a battle frenzy, that's what they would do. They would just take the mushrooms and they would go into full-on hallucinations, and they just go absolutely mad. That's how they got that reputation that they did. It's because they just went berserk.
Yeah, it's
And
a hell
when
of a
you're
way
fighting, when you're already got a lot of adrenaline pumping through your veins, and you're in a blood war, you're going to be seeing demons and monster spawns popping up left and right as well, while you're screaming your head off, foaming at the mouth, and terrifying all these poor monks with their half-naked body.
There's also the theory that they believe that they were turning into wolves and bears too. So
that came from them eating the mushrooms.
So if you're eating mushrooms and thinking you're going to turn into a bear,
well, someone else had to be at the battle and be like, "Yo, these niggas ain't turning into like wolves."
You
just dropped a hard in, but
they are told that they have shown the animalistic features of a bear or a wolf, or
those guys are
the
called
strength of a horse, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, berserkers.
Well, we got about 3 minutes, guys. So let's do, and then I'm gonna go offline and probably talk for a little bit, but let's go from there.
Probably go back into Hitler.
Well, let's be honest here. You're going to have to throw down the hammer and start lecturing some of us about the cleanliness on the stream.
I paid.
That's not the cleanliness
I tell you
I'm
what,
talking about, my dude.
I'm setting up that PayPal now.
If you're cursing in the chat, you're gonna have to pay.
Let me just
pay the polite atheist, because he's being polite enough to tolerate at least me.
I know. I'm just asking for troll.
That could very well
$5
be.
per curse word.
Hey, it's a great way to pay your bills.
Subscribe.
What should be? I can tell we're winding down, but I'm asking out of curiosity for future topics, because I know we like to talk about different religions and stuff on the stream. What do you think the next one should be? And would we be open to the idea of other newer, weirder ones, such as the Cthulhu mythos, and how some people are trying to make that into an actual religion?
Yes.